So, good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to another event of the Singularity U Sevilla chapter. And on this occasion, I'm extremely happy to introduce you to Fabio Teixeira. Fabio Teixeira comes from Brazil, but he normally lives either on a plane or in the Bay Area, in Palo Alto, near San Francisco, where he has one of his companies, actually two of them, exactly. And Fabio is an amazing person, full of energy, sleeps not much more than 5 hours a day, which means when we are all in bed, he's still working. When we get up, he's already working. And he's doing amazing things. And there are a couple of things I'd like to underline of him. One, anywhere you find yourself, you can have a business idea. And you will see why I'm saying that. That's one thing. Two, if you leverage the power of science, you can create something completely new and disrupt the market. And you will also see why I say that. Now, you know about atoms, and you know about spectra, and you know about all those things that are so important. Now you are going to see why those things can be crucial, can be profitable, and can solve global problems as well. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Fabio Teixeira.
Buenos dias. That's all my Spanish. I guess thank you very much for having me at your school. I'm super excited. I'm traveling all the time to talk about what I'm doing, but I still get nervous. So if you don't understand anything that I say, please just raise your hands. So I want to talk to you about my dream, and my dream has a name. This name is called Hypercubes. So Hypercubes is a project, a company that was born 2 years ago inside Singularity University, which is located in the premises of NASA Ames in California. So I was a student at SU back in 2010. It feels not like 7 years ago, but it feels like 7 months ago. It was one of the most transformative and powerful experiences that I went through in my whole life. I was a student at my university, my second university, software engineering school, where someone from US came in to announce this partnership with this university that's not a university, that's inside of NASA. And as a result of that partnership, they would give a full scholarship to one of the students of my university. Never been to Silicon Valley, had no idea what this big word means, entrepreneurship. And then back then I was working on a project, was the Brazilian version of Waze. You guys use Waze here? Waze, the navigation app? I used to call it weak traffic in Brazil back in 2007, 2008. And I was clearing phase by phase, and I won the scholarship. So here you go, Silicon Valley, first time. And I had no idea what to expect. And when I got there, I met all these people that I only knew from Discovery Channel, from TV. And I remember on the very first day at Singularity University, they asked each one of us, 80 individuals from all over the world, to stand up, say your name, where you come from, and tell us something about you that we'll never forget about you. And it was mind-blowing. So the youngest guy in my class, he was 17 years old, about your age, and he was doing a PhD at MIT. There was this girl from Ethiopia. She really wanted to go to school when she was only 4 years old, but she was not old enough to go to school to learn new things. And what she did, She grabbed the rock on the floor and she broke her 2 front teeth to look like you're 6, 7, so she could go to school. So that's the kind of people that I met in there, and I was like, oh my God, what am I doing here? I felt like I should dig a hole in the ground and disappear. But very soon, I felt very confident. I felt these are the people that I was looking for my entire life. So for those of you who are not familiar with SU, we're a group of people very concerned about big problems that affect everyone, such as food, water, energy, security, superpopulation, and so on. And the way we tackle these problems is through technology. Very powerful technologies that used to be only in the hands of governments and military, and today is something that you literally buy on Amazon. So from everything that I heard at SU, one thing that struck me the most was this number. So in 30 years, there will be 10 billion people living on this planet. This is a huge number that poses many questions on global resources, such as food, water, energy, and our impact on the environment. So to make this a little bit more tangible for you guys, we're going to have to produce more food in the next 3 decades than we did in the last 10,000 years combined. This is a challenge. This is the kind of problem that we talk to, that we tap to at Singularity University. Particularly in my company, we have an internal mantra that essentially we say that we can only improve what we can measure. That's why you guys have exams at school. And when it comes to measurement technology, we are fascinated about one particular technology called hyperspectral imaging. What is that? So we see 3 colors at the same time, red, green, and blue. This is an imaging technology that measures the reflectance of hundreds of colors from the ultraviolet, passing through RGB, visual spectra, all the way up to infrared. And we measure each of these colors separately. And by making these measurements, we're able to extract what we call the spectral signature. It's like a fingerprint of that particular material. That graph you guys see on the right top side. And we are including this technology into a satellite that's no longer the size of this room. It does not cost $1 billion anymore, but is the size of a shoebox. See that black box on the left, on top? That's a satellite. It measures 30 centimeters by 20 centimeters by 10 centimeters. And we're scaling the technology by, so you know, we can actually remotely detect the molecule composition of anything, the chemical composition, everything without touching. You know, when NASA says, we have found water in Pluto, they didn't send anyone in there. That's exactly the same technology. And we want to scale the technology with a constellation of at least 80 to 100 satellites scanning the entire planet every day. All right, Fabio, but what can we do with this? Here's an example. Here's a regular RGB photo. So because you can identify the molecule through image, and by reading the biomarkers, for example, of a farm, we can extract information such as soil fertility, water saturation level, stress, invasive species, diseases, nitrogen, you name it. So this is a whole new level of information that we never had before. And we believe we can take agriculture to the state of the art. What does that mean? That means how can you produce more food with less resources and with less environmental impact? That's our approach to improve the production of food to about 600 million farms that exist in the world. This is one vertical. There are other stuff we can do with this technology. mining. Oops. The mining sector, we can not only help these guys to prospect, to find the minerals they're looking for, but most important, we can have a 24/7 monitoring system able to detect on day zero when something goes wrong, when something shows up in a scene that was not supposed to be there. We don't have this today. Today, when you find out that something went wrong, it's already too late. It's going to take 20, 30, 40 years to recover the impact in the environment. Here's a test that we did last year with SETI. SETI is like an arm of NASA that searches for intelligent life, extraterrestrial life. And in this particular scenario, there was a meteor shower somewhere near to Los Angeles, and they needed to recover those meteorites as fast as possible. Because what happens in the US, people find those meteorites and they sell it on eBay. This is very, very bad for science because essentially those meteorites are a pen drive full of information. And the way they do it is essentially 50 people holding hands, looking at the floor, swiping the floor for hours. So we say, hey, we can help you guys with something better. So we equipped a drone with this technology, and in a couple hours, we're able to scan a massive area. And the result is we found what we're looking for. So what you see in my hand right there is a piece of another planet, of another star. It's a really tiny, small rock that weighs 5 kilograms, extremely dense. We're super excited about this. Moving on, another vertical, another market that we can tap into is the monitoring of oil and gas pipelines. Again, when there's a leak on the ground, you don't get to see it. And when you find out, it's already too late. This costs these companies license to operate, which is equivalent to millions of dollars a day. And when the damage is too big, this affects the company's stock market. And what it's millions of loss, it becomes billions of dollars in loss in a day. So they're desperate for that kind of solution. So here's how I did it. First, I had to learn how to identify methane using that technology. What is the spectral signature of methane? Where, in what particular color, what particular wavelength methane absorbs light. So once I learned this, right here I was a student at the International Space University. They have a headquarters in Strasbourg, France. And once I learned how to identify that methane, I equipped a small plane with all the technology that I needed, a sensor, GPS, a navigation unit, and a bunch of computers. And in this particular scenario, we were in Ohio, United States. They have this huge problem with fracking. If you don't know about fracking, essentially it's a technique where they inject pressurized water on the ground. They crack rocks to extract gas. It's a very aggressive technique that causes earthquakes, and even worse, it contaminates an aquifer. There are places in Ohio where the tap water can get on fire because it comes with methane. That's crazy. And all those places are in private land, so the Environment Protection Agency, they cannot get in, see what's happening to regulate. So we spend a couple of days. That's a fracking pad. And they have about 5,000 of those all over Ohio. So in one afternoon, we scanned all of them and we handled to the EPA, to the Environment Protection Agency, a map of which ones were leaking, which ones were not. Okay, this is what we can do. a very superficial explanation, but what is the challenge behind this technology? Why did anyone did this before? So the problem with this technology is that the amount of data it generates. We are expecting about 100 terabytes every time we orbit the planet, and we'll be orbiting the planet every 90 minutes. This is about 16 to 17 times a day. This is about watching 35,000 high-definition movies on Netflix in 1 hour and a half. It's a lot of data. But guess what? In space, we don't have fiber optics. In space, we don't have high-speed internet. In space, we have, if you're lucky, a 10 megabits per second connection that will cost you $500,000 to get a license. This is a table that shows how the radio frequency spectrum is distributed. Everything's taken. There's no room for anything. This is one of the biggest problems when it comes to space. So what we did, how to solve this problem? Well, we decided not to download the raw data from these satellites because it's almost impossible, but we decided to process this data on the satellite using supercomputers. That sounds very obvious, but what happens is in space we have a small, big problem called radiation, where high energy particles traveling near the speed of light, when they hit your electronics, it can either fry your electronic or it can scramble, corrupt the data. So there are special processors that are meant for space applications. We call it space-grade computers. The problem with these computers is that they cost a lot of money. $500,000, $1 million, $2 million. And the other problem is that they are 6 to 7 generations behind your smartphone. Extremely slow. With the exponential nature of sensing technology, these are useless processors. So what we did, we are repurposing GPUs that are originally created for gaming, now playing a big role on self-driving cars, and we're making these devices radiation-proof. So when we have that kind of computational power, we're talking about 2 teraflops per second. That's 2 trillion calculations per second. We are actually able to enable these satellites with artificial intelligence, specifically machine learning. So this is going to be a constellation of sensors that know how to learn autonomously how to identify and classify targets. In case you guys haven't realized yet, artificial intelligence is going to be the new electricity. You're going to see AI on everything. So as a result, what you guys see on the left, it looks like a black and white image, but it's actually a hyperspectral images, like 360 colors. It's a three-dimensional data. This usually takes a company with a team of 5 to 7 experts about a month to extract information out of this meaningless data. So what used to take a month, now we can do it in 5 seconds on the satellite. This is disruption. This is something never seen in the history of space before. So we are then essentially creating devices, sensors that will not send data back, but will send decisions. You tell us exactly what to do near real time. It's a new product that it doesn't exist today, but can tap into a lot of markets that needs that kind of data on a daily basis. I talked about radiation. I did explain about radiation, but just to make that component to work in space, we needed a team of 14 PhD candidates just to shield that processor with against radiation. That's a lot of work. And in addition, we need a particle accelerator. Nothing like the LHEC that you guys have here in Europe, but something really hard. Now, business-wise, when you're doing something big that takes time and will cost a lot of money, you need validation. This is something that is unique in Silicon Valley. Even before it gets started, we talk to as many people as we can to see if it makes sense, to see if there's a business opportunity, to see if that's feasible or if it's just a lousy idea. So I have this man here speaking.
Hi, this is Andy Aldrin. I'm here at International Space University, SSB 2015, in Athens, Ohio. I want to talk with you a little bit about Hypercubes. I've been talking with the guys here, and I got to say, I think these guys have an interesting spot in the market. So they're putting together an imaging technology, hyperspectral imaging, which I think no one else is doing, together with what we're learning we can do with small spacecraft, CubeSats if you want to call them. If you can combine those things together and really produce a constellation that's capable of providing hyperspectral imaging on a near real-time basis, I think this is actually the kind of technology that's going to revolutionize Earth imaging. It got a lot of challenges in front of them, but if you look at the things that are really going to make a difference in terms of Earth imaging systems, nothing comes close to hyperspectral imaging.
So that gentleman on the left top, that's Buzz Aldrin, the second man step on the moon, along with Neil Armstrong and Andy, his son. So look for the best people in the market on that sector that you guys are starting a project and see what they think. Next, I was, this is a global scale project. We don't have interest in selling that data or provide that data to one individual here and there. We want to deploy this data at least at the national level. So it was very important to us to talk to world leaders. Government, in this case, Queen of Netherlands. It's a really smart lady. She knows exactly what's going on when it comes to technology. She made the right questions. And this was a situation where I had no idea what was the protocol, how to behave. Do I give a hand? Do I not give a hand? Do I kiss? 2 kisses? What do I do? I was very nervous. And most recently, my CFO, he had the opportunity to present Hypercubes to the former president of the United States, Barack Obama, at the hotel gym. It was totally by chance. There were about 100 bodyguards outside the hotel to make sure that no one would get in, and it just happened that he was there. So, hey, Obama, come here. We need to talk. Most recently, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Richard Branson. It's a well-known entrepreneur. I see a lot of hats say, yes, of course we do. Who do you think you are, Fabio? I had the opportunity to go visit him in his house at Necker Island in BVI before the hurricane destroyed everything. So what he's doing different, I went there to tell him what we're doing. But this guy is essentially putting together technology to launch small satellites from a rocket from a 747. This is the rocket you see on the right side. So that means we can launch that rocket from any place on the planet, and that saves a lot of money. So this plane can put that rocket about 10 to 15 kilometers up in the air. That's 10, 15 kilometers when it comes to rocket fuel. It's millions of dollars, millions of dollars. Another advice that I want to tell you guys is that whatever you're building, make sure you build your product with your customer. You need to understand their pain, their problem. Don't focus on the technology, focus on solving the problem. This is a trip we did to Brazil to talk to farmers orange juice, cane sugar, soy, eucalyptus for cellulosis. And we learned a lot in a 2-day trip. We learned things that we don't find on the internet. Now, this is what Hypercube is. This is my life 24/7. I'm absolutely passionate about this project. But I'd like to talk to you about how I got this, how I got to this point. I mean, it was not easy to leave my previous life and start a space company. So when I left SU in 2010, I felt so disconnected to the world because in 3 months I was living in the future. I had the glimpse. It was like they pulled the curtain a little bit and they showed me the future, and then going back to the reality was a shock. So especially in Brazil. But I found my passion. Space wasn't my passion. So I went back to Brazil, and I decided to go to my grad studies at the National Institute for Space Research. I got accepted, got a bunch of reference letters from friends at NASA, including astronauts. That was easy to get in. But what I could not handle, I had to work and study at the same time, and that was not easy, especially because the school was about an hour from my house. And very soon I realized that that was impossible. I couldn't do it. And I had a kid to raise, to support, to educate, and it was very clear to me that I had to do something else, to figure out another way to raise the resources that I needed to get back to school and not worry about work. So it was 2 weeks that I was very, very, very frustrated because space was my dream. I wanted to study that. I was starving for education. And then I thought, I just need a step in between. I just need something else before getting there. So when I went back to Brazil, my friends wanted to know, what is it like to live in NASA? What is it like to live with astronauts? So we went to this restaurant, a fancy restaurant in São Paulo, Brazil, where they serve all sorts of drinks. And I like cocktails. I like the science behind cocktails, the mixing different ingredients, getting different flavors and different experiences. So I ordered a drink. It took about 30 minutes for me to get a drink in this premium VIP restaurant. That was like, that's not acceptable, and the drink wasn't that good. And immediately I thought, okay, maybe this is the opportunity. I need to create something new, leverage the resources that I needed to get back to space school. So at the table of the restaurant, I started designing a process that could automate the fabrication of drinks with precision. And a few months later, I created this machine, which is, I see a lot of smiles here, Elise. So essentially what this machine does is to precisely pour every ingredient of a cocktail in 5 seconds. And this thing is an IoT device, meaning it's connected to the internet. So when you get in the restaurant, you don't call the waiter anymore. You just pull out your new waiter, which is an app, order a drink, customize the drink, push a button, it's already paid. 5 seconds later, it's ready. Perfect. And I thought, okay, I just need, if I work in this for a year, I think I'm solid to get back to space school. But no, that was very naive. It took me 3 years to put this together. We launched in Brazil, was a total success, but Brazil started going south. There was a bad political scenario in Brazil that prevented us to get more investment. It was frustrating again because I thought I was ready. I thought it would be a total blast of success. It didn't work out. And at that point, I realized, you know what? I don't think I have more time to waste. I have to get back to space no matter what. I have to start from scratch. So I applied for the International Space University. I was in parallel with this project. I was working in a theory of quantum teleportation of energy from space. This is something that NASA has been dreaming since the 1960s. So collecting solar energy in space and beam down. But it turns out that putting anything in space is extremely expensive. The space shuttle mission was averaged out about $60,000 per kilo put in space. So every time we flew the shuttle was $1 billion. So it could not survive the crisis in 2008. That's why the space shuttle program was canceled. So my theory was essentially back to the physics. It's kind of polemical, but in quantum mechanics, when we have a phenomena called quantum entanglement, which essentially when two subatomic particles interact, they can become entangled, which means when you do an interaction in particle A, it automatically, instantaneously affects particle B, and particle B can be any other side of the universe. We discovered this about 100 years ago. We have no clue how it happens. And essentially my idea was, okay, what if we had small satellites with solar panels in space? So the basic principle of photovoltaic solar panels, essentially when photons hit semiconductors such as silicon, you can eventually knock an electron free, and then you have a current. So what would happen if that silicon atom or molecule would be entangled with another silicon molecule on Earth? Would I be able to replicate the photovoltaic effect on Earth? That was my theory, because that could potentially change everything. It would be the end of batteries. It would be the end of charging batteries process. I got accepted into International Space University with this theory. They gave me half scholarship, and I only had 2 months to pay for the other half. I could not afford to pay for it because I invested everything that I had in this project. And I asked them, hey, I can't afford this now. Would you save that half scholarship for next year so I have a whole year to raise that money? So yeah, let's do this, Fabio. So what I did, I put together a crowdsource campaign online on the internet. I was explaining to people why I wanted to do space, my dream, what I was doing, and why I wanted to go to space school. But it turns out that I spoke with the Office of the Presidency in Brazil, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Science and Technology, Ministry of Energy, the Brazilian Space Agency, the National Institute for Space Research, and over 400 universities. I was desperately to see if someone would be willing to sponsor my scholarship. I didn't raise one single penny in Brazil. I had friends from here, from Europe and US, that helped me a little bit, but it was not enough. It was not even close. And then they called me a year later, asked, hey, Fabio, how you doing? Are you ready this time? I said, no, now I'm broke, depressed. I didn't know how my dreams were this way, and my responsibilities were this way. I'm talking about my sons, so they're not in the same direction. So, and I'm the kind of person that I don't give up on my dreams. So I was extremely frustrated. And then I told them, hey, listen, can you, I told them the truth. Say, hey, for some reason this machine was news in France. And I told them, hey, look at this link. So see this is something I put together, hoping that you would finance my education in the space sector. We launched in Brazil, success, but we're not making any money out of this. Would you guys save my spot for next year again, please? I said, oh, Fabio, I don't know, maybe. Listen, let me call you back in a week. I have to talk to the committee here. This is way too long. So it turns out that they called me a week later, say, so Fabio, here's the deal. We understand that you did everything that was possible to be here with us, and we decided to give you a full scholarship. That was one of the best days of my life. It was amazing. I felt absolutely on the stars. But at the same time, I was like, how is that possible? Like, I spoke pretty much my entire country. I didn't get one penny, and people that never saw me, they decided to invest in my education. It blew my mind. So that's where I went to ISU. I met a bunch of astronauts, some serious people doing amazing work. And that was how little by little I was making my dream happen. So this experience that took about 4 or 5 years, this whole process that I told you in 30 minutes, I learned a few things. And the first thing is give up on unhealthy life, guys. So if you want to achieve anything in life, your body is where it starts. Take care of your body and it'll take care of you. Don't, this is your temple. This is what you have. With this, we got out from the caves, and this is where we live today. Because your body, because your intelligence. Second, stop thinking small, think big. So when you have long-term goals, it naturally forces you to be disciplined. You have to understand that a dream without a plan is not a dream. It's just like...
It's 12 o'clock.
That's my computer. Sorry about that. It's AI taking over. This is a tough one. So here, I know a lot of people that they always have an excuse to whatever happens to them to when something goes wrong. Listen, there's no excuses. No. We have today tools that we never had before. We're privileged to be part of an amazing school like this. And what I would like to tell you guys is that there are people out there that'll do whatever, will do anything to be part of an institution like this. And that means, since you guys have access to this level of education, there are other people out there, they do not have that access, which means we have responsibility over them. We don't live in a fair world. We still have, in 2017, people dying, kids dying of because they don't have what to eat, people that don't have where to live. It's our responsibility to take care of these people. We have to give back. This brings a sense of you doing something important. This is where you're going to find a satisfaction that you're never going to find anywhere when you were able to live to serve other people. So think about this. This is very important. you are an average of the 5 people you live with that are most close to you. That means if you hang out with 9 losers, very soon you're going to be number 10. So make sure you find the right people, people that support your cause, people that believes in you, people that makes you grow and not shrink and diminish. Here, last one. There's no magic, guys. There's no silver bullet. There's hard work, day after day. Now, this is how you build something big. This is how you build something meaningful. You need to work hard. Okay? And I guess this is what I had to say. There are mighty things. Live for other people. And be happy. Enjoy what you're doing. Thank you. Gracias. Next to you.
Thank you very much. So I'm sure there are questions in the room. We have a couple of mics over there. Any question? Apart from funds.
Here we go.
Hello. How did your project, which gave you the scholarship, end up?
How did my project?
Your theory, which gave up your scholarship in the astronaut?
Oh, I think I'm not a physicist, but they're not trying to validate to what or not that theory makes sense. They're actually looking for people that have that capability of think new things outside of the box, be creative, to forget the old models and think in a complete different new way. On a side project, I still research that. It's a really, really hard thing to do. It requires years of research, experienced physicists, and a lot of equipments that maybe not even exist yet. Maybe, I guess, when it comes to quantum entanglement, most of the researchers there are focused on teleportation of information and cryptography. That's the state of quantum entanglement, but it's not my major project right now, but something that when I want to relax and think of something else, I do my little basic research on that.
First of all, I wanted to thank you for sharing your story with us. I really enjoyed it.
It is my pleasure.
And second of all, on this project of yours, are there like parts that you work on piece by piece? And if so, what's your next big step that you're taking?
Okay, excellent question. So this is a project that involves not only technology, but involves regulation. So as I said before, we today have access to technology that only military had access 5 years ago. It's on everybody's hands, but regulation, it's still tough. So what happens is that technology is right here, regulation is right here, and so we also have to help leaders to shape these new rules. This is a very powerful technology that can essentially get to know all the natural resources that a country has. So we have to be responsible with that data, because if we just put this data out there, we can break economy overnight. So we have to somehow show how we are going to protect this data and together shape these new rules. As for the next big step, we should have the basic instrument that we call payload on the International Space Station next year. So the idea is to validate the major component without having to worry about the satellite. The satellite requires GPS, radio, navigation, pointing, so other harder things to do. But we have the space station right there to do that kind of stuff. So we just send this to space station, and then we test from the station if something needs to be changed or upgraded. I just have to call an astronaut, say, hey, can you please swipe the cards and update my software? And then we do a bunch of tests, a bunch of validations. Once we achieve the minimum acceptance level for the payload, then we pack this into a satellite that's this big, and then we send to space. That's our big step.
How many years do you think it will take you to send the thing to space?
We want to have the full constellation up and running within the next 5 years. And it will take that long, not because time that we need to put it together. I mean, we can build one satellite very fast, like in 3 months. It's more like how we need resources. We need a lot of money for that, right? Just to give an idea, each satellite costs about $350,000 just to send to space, plus about $500,000 per satellite, so it's a lot of money. So you have to build your company in a way where you can receive investment and not give so much away shares of your company. So it's a process. So we just got invested. We work for 6 months a year. It created more value of the company. Then we asked for more investment for small shares of the company. So we believe that this whole process to have the full constellation in the space would take about 4 to 5 years. That's the dream. If we had all the money in the world, we could do this in 6 months.
By the way, he speaks about receiving investments, and he did receive some investment, small amount of a few $1,000s, wasn't it?
It was about $5 million, just to start. Yeah. So we're gonna need a lot more. It's not a lot of money, guys. But it takes a lot of work to get $5 million.
Any more questions?
There.
What happened to the cocktail machine?
Okay, good question. So, things are still not good in Brazil. Actually, it's even worse. So what happened is that I took the machine to US, Silicon Valley. So there we started a whole new company with 2 more layers of technology that's not only the machine. So there are going to be some upgrades on how the drinks are made, how we interact with your friends using IoT devices. But we should be in the market in 6 to 8 months tops. But it's going to be a US-based company.
But maybe we will see it in Sevilla.
In Sevilla, yeah. It's a great market.
Before you were talking about that you started off with $5 million, I was wondering what you did, what things you had in mind to start the company with those $5 million?
Oh, yeah. So you have to have a very clear, crispy plan on how you're going to spend that money. Is not simple like, hey, I need $5 million. Now we have to convince the investor, say, I need this money for this, and this. This is how you're going to execute. He needs to be confident that you're not going to spend that on Coca-Cola. But we always put some extra because there's always something that can go wrong. But yeah, so it's not only about an idea, it's about how you're going to develop that idea, who are the people you're going to hire, what are the resources, equipment and people that we need. So all this, it's part of a business plan, has to be there, very clear, so the investor understands, okay, these guys know what they're doing. They have done their homework.
What was the biggest mistake along the way that pushed you farther back?
Whoa, man, this is a tough crowd. Biggest mistake. What's her name again? Antonio. Yes, I try not to program my brain and heart with the concept of mistake and failures. I like to see them more like a learning step. So it's all about how you see things, the perspectives, right? I think that I wasted precious time with the wrong people. I think that was my biggest mistake, because sometimes you need people that are friends, that are they can help you see things in a different way, and if you don't have that, you are confined and restricted to your own skills, and sometimes this is not a good feeling. When you have to do something new that no one has done before, there's no recipe. So all you have is instincts and people that can advise you. But I guess I would say, wasting time with the not wrong people, the wrong things. Things that are not like useless things, right? I guess that's a vague answer, but that's what I have.
There's another question over there, another upcoming one over here.
Okay.
How are
And the
you
third
able
one.
to combine your personal life with your work?
So here's the deal. When you do what you're passionate about, the concept of work is gone. I have fun in what I'm doing. It's hard for me to take vacations. Take vacations, I feel like I'm wasting time. I'm not saying this is good. We all need breaks. But entrepreneurs, they have to work really, really hard, which means from time to time, it's not a long time, a year, we have to make breaks and go do something completely different so you can recharge. You can get back to balance because work is very stressful. But I love my work. I love, like, if someone says, hey, we're going to have to wake up 2 in the morning to do XYZ business plan, I'm all partying. This is awesome. I love it. So it's not a good answer, but it's a little bit of workaholic, if you will. But I like to party here and there, every now and then.
Hello. From your personal point of view, what's the most important thing, or the steps or methods that we have to take in order to set up our own enterprise?
Okay. This is something that takes time, but I think first you have somehow to find out what you are crazy about, what drives you, what you're passionate about. This is not something easy to find. I knew exactly what I wanted to do when I was 12, but in order to find out about these things, you have to expose yourself to as many different experiences as possible. Something will trigger you so hard that you say, okay, I found my thing. Because when you're starting a company, a business, a project, there are a lot of things that can go wrong, and they will go wrong. And only if you're extremely passionate about, you're going to be able to continue. And because you're going to figure out a way to solve that problem. And that's a characteristic that your investors need to see. They actually, most of investors, they don't invest on an idea or on a company. They invest on the person. Who are you? Because they know they invest in something new, which is risky, but they are confident that before you say it's impossible, you're going to do whatever it takes to make it happen. So find out what drives you. You have to develop your full potential. You have to develop the God version of yourself. What are you good at? Go for it. Be that unique thing that no one else on the planet can do better than you. That's my advice.
We are running out of time. We have one last question over there. Can we devote 5 more minutes to this, Doña Marina? Yes? Right. So we have 1, 2, and 3 last questions. Come on.
All right, guys. 1 second.
What worries you more about our future?
What worries me more about the future? Is it I think this is the first time in history of mankind that we are ultra connected, right? Which means we are developing a collective consciousness, and I'd like to see people becoming more aware of this and working together to solve our differences, to solve barriers, to solve prejudice. When astronauts fly into space and they look back down to Earth, they realize that, oh my God, we are one single species in this vast universe. Borders doesn't make sense. Treating someone else because has different belief does make a difference. So my fear is that we don't realize this fast, quickly, to be able to achieve our full potential as a species and catapult the human evolution to the next level. I'm curious about to see what is the next step of human evolution. What can we achieve as one single mind? So it is my fear that people don't realize these things, because we're living in a very transformative period of time in the history that never happened before. So there's a lot to be explored. There's a lot of concepts that doesn't make sense anymore. We live in a completely globalized world. See, I'm from Brazil, living in United States. You guys from Spain, speaking perfect English. This is mind-blowing, This is mind-blowing. So these are things that we take for granted, but I saw life before instantaneous communication and after. Oh my God, we are already a different species. But anyways, that's my answer to you.
This is, I hope, my last question. How did you acquire all the funds for your project? Like, as you were progressing, did NASA see a bigger future for your project and they kept funding you, or did you get some from different investors?
Oh, okay. That was an excellent question, by the way. That was not easy. We started our project with some idea So, oh, there's this new technology in the market that's coming. What are we going to do about this? We started basic research. Okay, this is feasible. It's possible. So what do we do next? So we applied for Singularity University incubator program. It's a program to help mature companies or ideas, and they would invest $100,000 if you were selected. We applied. We had a really strong team, but we were not accepted. It's like, oh man, that's a bummer. And after being rejected, it was 2 months prior to going to International Space University, and that plane project was actually I did it at ISU, the International Space University. So I put all my everything that I researched about, I put in a physical project. I demonstrated the capabilities of the project. And then we applied again a few months later to the incubator. And this time we got accepted. And I asked, so why now? Why? I think we're the same people. We're doing the same thing. Why did you guys accept us this time? And they said, because this is a huge project. We're not sure you guys had the technical capabilities to execute this project. So by putting that airborne platform plane project together, they realized, okay, these guys, they know what they're doing. So that's how we got in. We got our first small investment, $100,000. That felt like $100 million because we're living 2 years in the shoestring, like desperate. How are we gonna pay for the rent and et cetera? So it felt great. So that was enough money to continue working for a year without having to worry about other stuff. So we developed the basic proof of concept of the technology, and once that was we could demonstrate that, we decided, okay, we're ready to start pitching our idea and see what happens. So we pitched about 100 people. So about 100 people. So you perfect your pitch. You understand what people are going to ask you about. You learn from it, improve, and at some point, we found someone that resonated with the mission of the company and said, yeah, let's do this together. I'm in. But it took us some serious work. So, yeah.
Very last question here.
Here we go.
So you consider your business to be revolutionary? Okay.
Okay, there you go.
I guess my question.
Closer.
Okay.
There you go.
I don't want to kiss the. So you consider your business to be like a revolutionary, the only one in the market. Do you have any external competition between other businesses?
So, you guys are awesome, by the way. You know? Damn. The technology we're putting together is definitely disruptive from the space industry. I don't think we're the only ones. We've been working on this since 2015, so about 2 years and a half, almost 3 years. Obviously, other people are thinking in the same direction. But what we're trying to do different is that up to this point, when you need a satellite, when you wanted to monitor a specific thing, let's say CO2, you would build a satellite specific for CO2. If you need to monitor chlorophyll or carbon sequestration in the Amazon, you would have to build another satellite. So what we're trying to do, what we're building is it's a harder, flexible, a Swiss knife kind of satellite where the mission is defined by software, and software assisted by artificial intelligence. I haven't heard anyone doing something like this because they're in a satellite of that size, there are a lot of constraints about power, radiation, and this is not an easy problem to solve. But the truth is, people will catch up. People will realize that, okay, we can do better things. You always have to be evolving. And honestly, I'm not a bank competing with another bank. I'm a company that wants to see this planet to be the best it can be. If there are other people trying to achieve the same thing, for me, it's a blast. I want to see more of these things happening, and I want to contribute. I want to eventually join forces and say, let's work on this together. So I don't like to see it as a competition.
Right, so let's, for 1 second, reflect on something Fabio just said. You need to mingle with the right people, give up toxic people, and that allows you to send a WhatsApp to a friend that lives in San Francisco and say, hey Fabio, we are having the World Space Week in Sevilla, and they've asked the Singularity chapter to provide something for that. Would you be willing to and participate? And you receive a yes. That's a great idea. So Fabio arrived the day before yesterday, actually the night before last night,
Yep.
after having missed the connection in Lisbon and driving from there, to meet some important people from Airbus, the European Space Agency, the City Council, speak yesterday at the event of the World Space Week, today to you, and he's off for Italy in a couple of hours. So let's thank him very warmly.
Thank you. This was amazing. All right. Thank you. Come here. Thank you.
I will go.